You already know what it is. Great Man of God Media TV back with another one. All right, so we're pretty much halfway through the year. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's May, come on, we're halfway through the year. And as far as boxing is concerned, eh, as far as what I'm looking at it, you know, it has been very pedestrian, and I'm being nice when it comes to the amount of attention as well as pay-per-view buys when it comes to boxing as a whole, right? So, I was looking at in this article about the fight schedules for boxing of 2024, no matter what promotional company it is. They're listing all the fights that have taken place this year, as well as upcoming fights for 2024, right? And I would say this basically, we've had our two biggest fights this year so far as pay per view numbers. That would be Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney and Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia. Now, according to Rick Glacier, shout out to Rick Glacier reported that the pay per view numbers for Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia did about 500,000, a little bit over 500,000 pay-per-view buys, right? And also, he just reported that the numbers for Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia did between 500 to 550,000 pay-per-view buys, right? So as you can see here, in fact, the hashtag Canelo Munguia pay-per-view numbers is purported 500 to 550,000. The good news is for boxing enthusiasts is that translates to Canelo must fight Crawford and Benavidez types to continue to earn the purses he's been receiving. Reality is that number is correct. It's another PBC financial bloodbath. Interesting. Interesting how these numbers, right? The two biggest fights so far this year. I really don't see any other fights as far as pay-per-view numbers. And that's a big caveat, that's if Canelo decides to fight Benavidez this year. Right? I don't think he will, but let's just say he does. If those numbers are true, right? 500 to 550,000 pay-per-view buys. Do you really think that Canelo versus Benavidez is going to go over 550,000 buys? You know? But that just says, as far as these numbers is concerned, that just says more about not just the fighters, but boxing as a whole. Is boxing dying? Because these numbers, we haven't had a fight this year that has reached over 1 million pay-per-view buys as of yet. And I don't think any other fight will happen based off these numbers. I don't think any fight will reach north of 1 million pay-per-view buys. I'm not counting Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. That's not a fight. That's a circus. All right. We're not going to count that. I would not be surprised if it does do over 1 million buys, but we're not counting that. All right. We're counting real fights, real fighters. All right. Not guys who are retired. Not only that, but extremely past their prime in dinosaur years and a YouTube fighter. We're not counting that. Right. But as far as these numbers is concerned, especially this year, I don't see no bigger fight that's going to happen besides, again, if Canelo decides to fight Benavidez this year. I don't see any other bigger fight that's happening this year. You got Crawford versus an unknown. You got Tank Davis versus pretty much an unknown. Frank Martin is an unknown. Unless you're a hardcore boxing fan, you're not going to know who Frank Martin is. Also with Crawford, you're not going to know who Majimov is. Hardcore boxing fans, these fights that are coming up are for hardcore boxing fans, right? The Bivol versus Beterbiev fight was pushed back because Beterbiev is injured. Those fighters, nobody knows who they are outside of hardcore boxing fans. So as far as the numbers is concerned, like I said, I don't see any other fights that would exceed over 1 million pay-per-view buys this year. So what does that mean overall? Again, I mentioned is boxing dying? That's just an open-end question for you guys to answer. Based off these numbers, it looks like it is. Does that mean also the pay-per-view metric or the pay-per-view system is antiquated? Because let's be honest, a lot of people are either streaming off a Fire Stick or going to fight parties, where it's one to many. Like one person buying the fight, many watching it, right? So yeah, I mean, what needs to change in terms of that, right? I can't really say right now, but just based off the numbers, according to Rick Glacier, you got two of the biggest fights that happened this year. Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia did between 500 to 550,000 pay-per-view buys, and Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney did a little bit over 500,000. That is not good. I expected, especially Ryan Garcia, who has more casual fans, arguably more casual fans than any other fighter right now. He has a big fan base, and he only did 500,000 buys. Really? So like I said, that says a lot, man. That says a lot. But yeah, as far as the schedule is concerned, we got this weekend. We got Usyk versus Tyson Fury. As far as the pay-per-view numbers, man, that's gonna tank. Is it a great fight? Absolutely. This fight I want to see, undisputed heavyweight division. Absolutely, right? There is no buzz for this fight. The only thing that happened yesterday was John Fury headbutting some motherfucker and bleeding. Just try to get some controversy for the fight. Then he apologized. Other than that, these guys, especially Usyk, who is a weirdo. He's a great boxer, but he's a weirdo. He doesn't talk. He doesn't speak English. He can't sell a fight. Fury's the only guy that's selling the fight, but that's not the fight that people want to see. They want to see Fury versus AJ, right? That's the fight that's going to do numbers. Fury, AJ is going to do numbers, and they need to fight more than once, right? But Usyk is just not marketable. Great fighter, just not marketable. He just can't. He's a weirdo. I feel. You ask him a question. I feel. You just can't sell the fight, man. But you need guys like Fury out there doing his antics and stuff like that to sell the fight. But yeah, it's just point is that Usyk versus Fury, great fight. It's just not going to do numbers. It's not. It's not. I mentioned Crawford versus Madrimov. I mentioned Frank Martin and Tank Davis. Those are not going to do numbers either. Sorry to say, because you're fighting two unknowns. Yeah, man. Like I can't see any other big fight that's happening this year besides a potential fight between Canelo and Benavidez. But as far as numbers doing 1 million plus, that's not going to happen this year. Sorry. So boxing needs to change, man. As far as how you market these fighters, how you present these fighters to casual fans, it needs to change because these numbers aren't good. According to Rick Glacier, 500,000 for the biggest fights this year between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia and Canelo versus Munguia. That's terrible. Needs to change, man. Let me know your thoughts down below, family, about these numbers. Do you think boxing is dying? What needs to change? Let me know about your thoughts below, family. Until next time, signing out. Peace.